The debate over racial profiling in America was reignited with the Trayvon Martin case and the uproar over stand your ground laws. Now, another law is coming under intense national scrutiny, and that is stop and frisk. Last week, a federal judge banned New York's police department from using the crime-fighting tool, saying it targets minorities. Yesterday, Trayvon Martin's mother and the head of the NAACP spoke out in support of the ruling.
I think you have to give not only civilians, but you have to give the police officers the right direction. You can't give people the authority, whether it's civilian or police officers, the right to just stop somebody because of the color of their skin.
Just because there are more murders in our community doesn't mean that you can treat all of us like we are guilty.
NYPD Commissioner Ray Kelly argues, however, that it's minorities who are in danger without stop and frisk.
The losers in this, if this case is allowed to stand, are people who live in minority communities. 97% of the shooting victims in New York City last year were people of color, black or Latino.
Kelly also issued a warning yesterday for why the rest of America should care.
This happens throughout America. In any police jurisdiction, you have to do it. Officers have to have the right of inquiry if they see some suspicious behavior. And this case has to be appealed, in my judgment, because it will be taken as a template and have significant impact in policing throughout America.
I agree with Ray Kelly. Bolling, what's your thoughts on this?
You know, I did a ton of research today, for real. I pulled up, had the brain room work with me. I took the top 10 most populous cities in the country: New York, L.A., Chicago, Houston, Philadelphia. Then I matched it against whether they have stop and frisk, and then I matched it further against what their violent crime rates were. And I'm really, I guess on Friday, I was really in favor of the stop and frisk thing. I got to tell you guys something. Some of the cities with the highest violent crime rates have stop and frisk. So I went a step further and I took the top cities, the most dangerous cities: Flint, Michigan, Detroit, Oakland, St. Louis, Memphis, Stockton. It turns out that crime is more tied to economic activity, the ability to find jobs, to have jobs, than it is to stop and frisk. So I can't make the leap that says stop and frisk is the reason for a lower crime rate, lower murder rate in New York City.
I think you just wanted to tie in jobs.
Honestly, I got to tell you, you can't. There's no one or two cities that say, look, when they instituted stop and frisk, crime rates went down. It did go down in New York, but it wasn't because of that. It was because the city got stronger.
But how can you
Giuliani cleaned up the city.
Okay, but how can you just parcel that out and not say that it wasn't part of the overall picture?
The most dangerous cities in the country have the highest crime rate.
No, but I'm talking about for New York City. I think it's part of the model that worked here in addition to other factors.
I can tell you that the 4.4 million people who were stopped and frisked in the last 10 years, a minuscule number were arrested. A minuscule. And there was nothing about, very few of them had guns or anything else like that. So 4.4 million, and you get a tiny number of people who get arrested. I mean, it's logical. You look at it. It is stepping on the Fourth Amendment, 4.4 million people, and you don't stop any crime.
I'm sorry, Bob, it's not stepping on the First Amendment because the U.S. Supreme Court disagrees with you. It is legal, it is constitutional, and it is not a violation of your Fourth Amendment.
But for all you people who say you're for stop and frisk, show us where it has brought crime down, specifically.
This is exactly like the jobs saved argument. When President Obama said, well, we're going to show you how many jobs we saved, and it's actually, you can't actually show jobs saved. You can't show the number of crimes deterred. There's three important words out of the debate yesterday: integral, behavior, and deterrent. Integral meaning that it is part of policing. Behavior meaning that it's not a racial profiling, it is behavior. And then also the third thing is deterrent. I got to say, I lived in Washington, D.C. compared to New York City. Bob, I would much rather be in New York City. It's a much safer place than D.C.
What is integral?
Integral?
Is that like integrity?
Are you kidding me?
No, I don't know what it is.
Integral meaning it's like when baked in the cake, you have to have it.
I didn't know.
Remind me not to partner with you in Scrabble. Woo.
Right, absolutely. Kim, you're available. No one can stay with you.
Yeah, Brian,
let's be honest.
I gave
When's
you
the last time you played Scrabble?
I thought he was joking.
This weekend.
Here's the deal. You did? Really?
Yeah.
Great. Would you electricity out?
Excited.
What's going on with you?
No power.
All right, first off, The reason why New York works and the other cities don't is because New York's better at it. They're not profiling nationality. They're not profiling color of skin. They're doing behavior. And what they're doing is when you stop 5 million people, you only have 10% resulting in arrests. I say good job. You know why? Because what you're saying is you're also deterring a lot of people from walking out with a piece because they could get stopped. They say, I'm not going to go into that building. I'm not going to caught because I don't like the behavior that leading up to that. And the NYPD will get in your face and just say, excuse me, can I talk to you for a second? They will talk and they will search. And just real quick, Rudy Giuliani got us on our way. Unbelievable progress. I witnessed it. 42nd Street looked totally different. You walk around, there was not even any litter. People feared Bloomberg would take over, and it would all come back. The graffiti and everything was impossible to stop. I'll give everything to Mayor Giuliani. But what Mayor Bloomberg did is when it came to law enforcement, he kept it on the downward slope. And when you look at those areas, they're not positive areas. That is not a good economic area.
Wait a minute. You have to, before you can say that definitively, I get back to the point of the people who were arrested. Virtually none of them had guns. Virtually none of them had any long records, and most of them walked away.
Where are the complaints?
Where are the complaints?
There's salutations for their efforts.
You have to have a reasonable doubt.
And they're better than Chicago.
Hold on. NYPD, they don't do it in Oakland, and they don't do it in Chicago.
They should.
They should.
But that's not where the highest crime is. The highest crime across the country is where the poverty rates are the highest. Flint, Michigan, 41%. Detroit, 41%. Oakland, 27%. Memphis, 20%. That's where the tie is between violent crimes and poverty rates.
Absolutely.
Let me give you a good example.
Newark,
New Jersey has stop and frisk. They have a 33% per 100,000, 33 per 100,000 murder rate, the highest in the country, and they have stop and frisk, a very transparent.
I don't think this is determinative. I don't think this is a
jobs, poverty.
Obviously, I think jobs and poverty are key to everybody's success and rising. I'm just saying that's not the police department's job, and I also don't think that it's determinative just to take numbers like that, like Bob's doing, saying, well, they didn't have any, they weren't arrested. Well, how do you know how many crimes they didn't commit? Because they were deterred from the behavior.
There's a lot of people that walk out.
Some of the highest.
I would rather trust Ray Kelly and Mayor Bloomberg to this than anybody else who is not in law enforcement, who maybe had been a victim of a crime.
All right.
Lots of people.
Let me just say
these odd bedfellows, Bolling and Beckel.
Let me ask you a question.
To Eric. It's a flat-out salute to, I'm serious, dead serious, to do that research, not depend on other people's flow charts and pie charts. Awesome. But this is what I like to add to this whole thing. When you talk about race and nationality playing a role in where they do stop and frisk, it just so happens that in many of those areas is where there's more crime happens.
We're not arguing
where they go.
We're not arguing that.
Economic is definitely tied into criminal behavior.
Part of the puzzle.
I understand that. So that's why there's the focus. So throw out the race aspect, which we saw Trayvon Martin's mom brought up.
It says the police department says you're supposed to have reasonable suspicion. Do you think there was 4.4 million reasonable suspicions?
Yes.
Oh, come on.
In this aspect, I'm going to differ with Bob. I do think it's constitutional. I don't think the police are doing anything wrong by doing it. I'm simply saying when you look for causal effects, the reasons behind murder rates, violent crime rates, rapes, etc., it's more tied to economic availability, the ability to find and make work, than it is stop